Hello, y'all. Welcome back once again. Anthuriumpapa back with you with another educational video. Yes, continuing to spread that knowledge, not holding anything back. Today's subject is going to be one many of you have asked for: how to get my babies working towards ambient, how to grow anthuriums in ambient. I know, just hearing that, a lot of people are like, whoa, you can grow anthuriums in ambient? Absolutely. A good 90% to 80 to 90% of what I show you online behind me is all growing in my ambient conditions. Yes, I know, a big old chunk of my collection is growing in that super low humidity. So it's not necessary. Yes, they do grow in a super high humidity environment, but they do tolerate quite a bit of fluctuation in those zones. So we're gonna go over it step by step, how I go about growing in ambient, what I use, and the thought process behind why I grow in ambient. So join me. If you have any questions, concerns, you already know, get down in the comments and ask. That's what I'm here for. All right, let's get into it. So first things first, what I like to preface this with is grow how you want. Grow what brings you the most joy, what gives you the most personal growth, because in the end it's your collection. Do what gives you the most happiness. So what are the ways to grow? So we already know what is the biggest things that we always hear: tent and cabinets. So tent growers, you can have multiple sizes of tents, but most of the time we're keeping a fan system, an induction system, keeping higher humidity in those. Not all the time, you know, some people like myself, I vent my tent completely, so I do run a very much lower humidity than most people who have tents. But like I said, it is an option to grow your anthuriums in. There are people that have massive tents that are the size of rooms. They're running humidifiers in there. It's a really cool vibe. If you don't quite have that room, and many of us don't quite have the room to run a tent and run a whole room tent or anything like that, many of us just want to have some plants, you know, maybe in a cabinet, just in a spot. Bada bing, bada boom, they're just hanging out. There's my plant area. It's gorgeous, I love it. For anthuriums, I always like to say it's more of a nursery, because before you know it, within a year, within 6 months even, that anthurium is gonna be coming pretty close to outgrowing most cabinets, most of the IKEA cabinets. So that's definitely something to keep in mind in that aspect. Just know it's, unless you're gonna be chopping constantly and keeping them very small and restarting a lot, it's not an end-all be-all. Bins, some people like to grow in bins as well. So your props and rehabs and stuff like that. A lot of people get a lot of joy from busting open that bin and seeing all the life that's sprung back to life. So that's really cool. I enjoy that as well. I run all of these options so far. So that's what I enjoy, running all the options. Additionally, outside, there are additional options that we can run here in Florida, as in greenhouses and shade houses. Greenhouses, of course, is gonna be your coverage structure from the elements. It's gonna hold a higher humidity. Most of the time it has some kind of watering system, all that fun stuff. A step down would be just a shade house. So that's gonna be like a posted unit that has just shade cloth over it, that's taking advantage of the higher humidity that's already in said environment. We see a lot of that in Florida. So those are our major ones aside from ambient. Ambient's gonna be out in your living room, out in just open space and dealing with your lower humidity than what they would normally be dealing with. So yes, it is a little harder for them to adjust for there, but once they do get adjusted to that new area, man, do they start loving life again. So why do I grow in ambient personally? I enjoy growing in ambient because I love coming into a room or coming into my living room and just seeing these faces looking at me immediately. I love seeing my plants. I love seeing them as soon as I walk into a room, just being dramatic and all arranged beautifully. I love that. I love it, I love it, I love it. That's a vibe I enjoy. Again, not everybody is able to run that year round, especially wintertime. I know my northern people, once you're temperatures dip down, your ambient temperatures start dipping down, you may need to run a humidifier, all that fun stuff. Some of my mountain people, Colorado, higher elevations, you're dealing with that same situation as well. You may have to run humidifiers even more. It's certainly not impossible, but it is definitely harder for you guys. So that's why I grow in ambient. I like to see my plants. For me, it's easier care because again, the accessibility, I can see my plants. I don't need to remember to walk to my tent. I don't need to remember to be around my tent in order to remember to take care of it. Because sometimes I do get a little absent-minded, but if they're all in my face, then there's no ignoring these beautiful faces. So that's another reason why I keep my Anthuriums out in ambient. One of the questions I do get a lot is, do they grow slower? Yes, just a fraction of a bit slower, which in reality for me is definitely helpful. So that way I don't get overran with big ol' Anthurium. So I certainly don't mind it. They still grow very, very rapidly in the grand perspective compared to a philodendron in ambient. Yes, Anthuriums are still growing very much quicker in my, depending on species, in my experience, they're growing very much quicker. How to grow in ambient. I have 3 prerequisites that I tell people that you need to fulfill prior to getting that baby out into ambient. So the very first one is make sure you have hit the 6 to 7 leaves overall. By all means, you can do more, but I wouldn't suggest really any less. Once you hit that 6 to 7 leaves, you know you've got enough foliage up top that she can eat a leaf or 2 on that transition, and it's not gonna be a big deal at all. She's gonna keep on trucking. So yes, 6 to 7 foliage, that's number 1. Number 2 is going to be a full pot of roots, whether that's my 3.5-inch tall pots that I sell, or just really any of that first starter pot. As soon as you've got a full pot of roots in there, and it's usually, once you hit that 6, 7 leaves mark, you usually have more than enough roots in there. It just really depends on the substrate you're going for. My indicator is either using a clear pot so I can really see the root proliferation, or roots actually peeking out of the bottom. Once I have several roots peeking out of the bottom, I've hit my first prerequisite, the 6, 7 leaves. I know I can move on to my last and final prerequisite. So 1, 6 to 7 leaves. 2, full pot of roots. Full pot, as much as we can. Number 3, the last one, no soft leaves. It is imperative that when you're moving an Anthurium out into your lower ambient humidity environment, that you are not having any of the soft leaves. What do I mean by that? We want to make sure that none of the leaves are in the full colorful form that they're in right now. So this is an emergent color, or the emergent leaf. It's very soft right now. It's very delicate, as I'm sure many of you know already with Anthuriums. You got to be very easy with them, very careful with them when they're that new of a leaf. So once that is fully hardened off, we don't see any of the color like that, the red emergence, if that's what that emergent is on that one. None of the emergent color left, and the leaf is nice and hardened off. I know, awesome. I've hit my other prerequisites, the 6 to 7 leaves, full pot of roots, and now my most recent leaf is hardened off. I know I can move it out into ambient conditions. So I've been saying ambient, ambient, ambient. Ambient is a very general term. Ambient Florida is not the same as ambient in Washington State. Is not the same in ambient New York State. They're all gonna be a little bit different. What I always say, definitely during the summertime, the great equalizer is usually AC. It usually brings down my overwhelmingly high outdoor humidity, so it evens up to everybody in the north. And in the wintertime, that's when you guys really deal with it worse in the north. I've seen 10% humidity, 5% humidity. So if you are wanting to be an ambient grower, I would maybe suggest having a grow room. You don't necessarily need to like plastic it off or anything like that, but have a grow room where you achieve up to 45 to 55% humidity. We have seen success, when I say we, growers around the United States that I talk to, customers around the United States that I talk to, we can pretty successfully grow our Anthuriums down to 20% humidity. Now, some issues when we're growing in ambient humidity. So, issues with growing in this ambient humidity are going to be a couple of things. They dry out faster than what they would in a higher humidity like tent environment. So this is something we deal with. You may see like a day or two shaved off your normal watering schedule, or what your pots would normally dry out in. Additionally, pot size is a great extender of that moisture as well. So my small 3.5-inch pots, I typically don't bring out into ambient. I'll up pot them into my next size. So my 4-inch pot, and I'll make sure, again, 5 to 6 leaves, or 6 to 7 leaves, and I'll go ahead and transfer them out into that new pot so they have plenty of space to go ahead and grow into when they get into that ambient environment. So stuck leaves is something that we deal with quite a bit in growing in ambient humidity. Typically it's gonna show itself in hole in the leaves. It's gonna scare new people that haven't quite seen the leaves getting stuck like that before. They're gonna think it's pest. It's definitely not pest. It's just the leaf getting actually physically stuck on itself and drying out. So what we need to do to combat that is actually just spray it down with a spray gun. I'll do a nice tips and tricks video to do an in-depth on how I deal with those, just to make sure that there is minimalization of leaf damage when you're messing with them, because ideally we don't want to touch the leaves at all. But if we can help them and prevent these big holes in them, that is my goal. That is my goal. Another thing that we see, a negative side of growing in ambient conditions, is crunchy leaves. We see quite a bit of crunchy leaves because it is much easier for that quick dry out to, especially the bigger collection, is much easier to pass up a pot, maybe forget that one and let it dry out a little bit, and then guess what? You get the crunchy leaves. So sometimes that'll happen too when you go to rewater it. Sometimes it'll get overwatering, underwatering signs. So there's a good crunchy leaf for you. Again, as I said in multiple of my Instagram or in my lives, for every beautiful leaf you see that I show you, there are multiple crunchy leaves. And that's just the reality of growing anthuriums in ambient conditions, but it can be the reality of growing anthuriums, period. They can be quite temperamental if you don't have all the parameters just absolutely perfect. Some species, but many times we're okay with that. It's not a big deal. It's not all about having an absolutely perfect anthurium all the time. We enjoy these emergents while they're here, and usually they stick around, those leaves stick around for multiple leaf generations before they start getting crunchy. Again, remember, root rot video. We don't get concerned with the crunchiness until we see it on the upper leaves. That's when we know we possibly have a root rot issue or a deeper issue that we need to address overall. Last, pest control is a bit harder in ambient conditions because you don't have an enclosed environment. It's much harder to use a chemical, and it's much harder to use active pest defense, i.e. Live pest management, beneficials, if you will. So typically beneficial bugs, they need a higher humidity to live. They need a higher humidity environment. So if we're growing in ambient, that's going to be much harder to achieve. There are a couple species that will rock out in ambient, but overall, since we are very spread out, I go my regular pest control multi-natural chemical route with a final end defense of something like a full-on pest control insecticide. Try to stay away from those, as I said in the pest control video, but sometimes you do need at least maybe once or twice a year to go with something a little heavier, just to let them know what's up, you know. So that essentially covers it, guys. It's not super hard, but you got to make sure you hit those prerequisites, because if you don't, you're gonna get a lot of leaf damage. You throw her out there when that leaf is soft, it's gonna damage that leaf, and you're gonna have to look at it. If you throw her out there when she doesn't quite have enough roots in there, well, she's gonna struggle. She's gonna really struggle on that transition. You're gonna throw her out there when she doesn't quite have enough leaves yet, well, she's not quite mature enough to really put up with that transition into ambient. So it's imperative, hit those 3 prerequisites and you will be good to go. Keep in mind that there will be some crunchy leaves, some stuck leaves, but there are ways to combat this. And in reality, We're not shooting for perfection in ambient conditions. We're not in the perfect environment, the controlled environment of a greenhouse. So we have to realize that, yes, we will have a crunchy leaf here and there, but it is not completely detrimental. They're okay. They're gonna keep on rocking. So thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for checking out another Anthuriumpapa video. Please, 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 please like, please subscribe, please get in those comments. It really helps. It helps more than you know. It bumps me up there in the algorithm, lets people know, hey, oh, this guy knows something about Anthuriums. A lot of people are watching him. Seems like he knows what's going on. Let's try, let's get in there, subscribe, get all that fun stuff. Check out my links down in the description there. I have a link to my link tree, which with all the items that I use, nothing is held back. Every single item that I use is represented there. Check out my website, anthuriumpapa.com, where you can find my pots. You can find a couple of my seedlings on there. And most importantly, you can find the most recent Anthuriumpapa t-shirt. These just dropped literally today. Nice, awesome side wraparound called the little Anthuriumpapa hug t-shirt. Love it, stinking cute. Got a little logo on the sleeve here too. So just trying to keep it fresh, not hitting you with another tie-dye t-shirt, you know, keeping it fresh, keeping it fresh. I hope to bring more awesome, different, maybe not Anthuriumpapa related ones, maybe just planty related ones, you know, big plans, working on different designs. Really hope you guys enjoy it. Also join me for Palm Street if you're ever interested in getting any of the babies that I make, any babies from growers that I love and admire and want to carry their babies and sell to you guys as well. Come for the vibes, come for the knowledge, come for the wiggles, come for the wiggling, jiggling, you know, all that fun stuff. You know all the things that I do if you're already there. If you haven't joined me yet, definitely get on there. It is a low pressure situation, a low pressure live where I encourage you to just get on there, learn, ask questions, and if there's something on there that you like, let me know and we'll get you hooked up with it. Cool. Thank you guys so much again. Like, comment, subscribe, as I said before, helps me so much. Jump on there, get on my Instagram, let me know what's up. Cool. Love you guys so much. We'll see you on the next video, but most importantly, keep growing forward. See you next time. Thank you guys so much. Bye.